name is John Bёrton, and I am so grateful you have taken the time to study environment and light with me. I think it's important to start the class with my mantra. This is a mantra I share with everybody who's ever taken a workshop from me and studied with me. And I heard this from someone who wasn't even an artist, but I've always loved it. And that is, I may not be right, but I am certain. The reason it's my mantra when I paint is when you're painting, you don't want to go backwards. Going backwards would be this. Okay, I'm drawing a tree. It looks pretty awesome. Oh no, it's not looking good. I need to erase it. Okay, that's not quite right. Okay, now I'm going to draw the tree again, and I don't like it. And now I'm going to draw the tree again, and I don't like it. So this was only a few seconds, but what if this was 10 minutes each time? And after 30 minutes, all I have is a blank piece of paper that I've erased every time. So I may not be right, but I am certain is I'm going to draw that tree, and then I'm going to put it down and correct where I need to correct and keep what's right. I rarely erase. You'll see in my demos because I want to go forward. So when you paint, draw, put it down like you mean it. Put it down like you're 100% right, and then you will correct it if you're wrong. But the longer we are tentative, and I've seen people who will do a painting and it will take them, it's a small like 12-16 painting and it takes them 3 months. To me, that usually looks like a lot of decisions weren't made. So I may not be right, but I am certain means make the decisions, make them with confidence, knowing you can correct them, knowing you can change them, and that's how you're going to be a more aggressive, more confident painter. In this class, I will share my thoughts on how we can use this beautiful world we live in as the departure point in creating paintings that will have the illusion of light and life through shape making, color, and value. We will learn how to view a chaotic environment and organize it without manicuring it. You will have the opportunity to watch while I work on location, as well as in my studio, while sharing the tools and techniques I use and have acquired in my 3 decades of oil painting. Working day after day studying the effect of light on form helps create an encyclopedia of knowledge. Even if the painting is not as successful as we would like, we still add to that knowledge that can be used throughout our lifetime and our work. Why do we paint outside? It's kind of like this. If we were going to write a novel about Venice, we could research on the internet and make a fairly representational account of someone living in Venice. However, if we live in Venice while writing the novel or have lived there before, how much more authentic will our novel be? So just like the example of the author in Venice, if I want to have authentic paintings, I need to study light in different times of day, in different places around the world. So if I'm painting the desert or canyons or mountains or coast, I need to go out and I need to study that and then bring that knowledge back into the studio with either a painting or with color notes that I can build a more complete statement. I have created my own definition for painting, and it is painting is the celebration of internalizing beauty and then trying to convey how you felt about what you witnessed in a poetic way. These words dictate how I create every painting I make. It is my mission statement and guide every time my brush touches the canvas. I recommend, as we go throughout this course, that you give a definition to what painting means to you, or the goal you want to get out of it, because the best way to get where you're going is to know where you want to go. I don't only paint in oils, I paint in acrylic, oil, digital, gouache, and so I thought it might be good to show you also my sketch pad. So these paintings you'll see are out of my travel sketch pad, and these are paintings that I have painted just for myself. They're not to go to galleries or to museums, and you'll see how I paint them a little different than my oil paintings, because in the end they don't have a home. Their home is with me, so I'm not trying to impress or show anyone. I'm just trying to take color notes. And it is interesting when all your goal is to take color notes, this is really what happens. And so let me show you these. This first one that you're going to see is a painting in South America. I was on the edge of Patagonia and I'm out on the coastline there, and there's this home with these trees all around it, all different kinds of trees, and all different types of greens. We're going to talk about this. Is green can be a difficult color a lot of times because people are using it right out of the tube. But when we start seeing temperature variations, and look at this, one thing that really excited me when I sat down was all those temperature variations in green, complemented by the red roof of the building. And when you start seeing that and start seeing those variations, it's going to get really exciting to you, and the different size shapes and how we're going to place those. This is a place I love painting. This is a boatyard not far from my studio. One great thing about this boatyard is these old fishing boats, and it's so salty. It's like going back in time. And one of the most exciting things is not just the boats, it's all the junk on the ground. When I go out there, you're looking for lead-ins and how to move into a painting and how to take the abstraction and shapes and build large shapes against medium shapes against small shapes. And when I go out there, there's just so much junk on the ground. There's a lot to grab from different values and different colors. And it's great. This is a boat called the 4th of July, which I've painted in oil, painted in gouache. I love painting it because I think that the shapes are so interesting. In this one, we're trying to create the size of these mountains through small to big shapes and pulling the composition off the top. This one's a outdoor market in South America. This is an interesting study in shapes. You're trying to place shapes together. It's kind of puzzle pieces that you're putting together abstractly to come up with a complete statement. And if you look here, maybe you didn't notice, but there is a woman actually with a green dress. She's just right of center, and she's carrying a basket. And so I'm painting there, and she walks into the scene. She certainly wasn't standing there long, but just long enough to put just a couple color notes. It's really interesting sometimes is when you see a scene, and we're going to talk about this, and I'm going to give you suggestions and ideas on, okay, wait a minute, there is way too much stuff going on here. How do I organize that without manicuring it? Because we don't want to manicure it. The beauty is all the stuff going on, but we need to be able to organize it in our mind so we can try to make a successful painting while still having all those interesting shapes. This is a painting from Iowa. It was freezing out and there wasn't snow, but this was a river that it was white frozen over because it was so cold out. And wanted to go out and get some color notes. Never painted a frozen river. I don't know how long this was, but it wasn't long because I was freezing. And wanted to just finish, move on to the next thing. As you see, there's a lot of winter trees, so a lot of trees without leaves. And you can see how do you handle those in the distance compared to the foreground. I've grouped the value and temperature, kind of held it in the distance so it doesn't compete with the foreground, but trying to make that atmosphere, using atmospheric perspective through different value and color. But an interesting one is a lot of times we always think with distance, we always have to go cool blue, but sometimes you don't have to go that far. Just pulling it down a little on the scale can really create some depth. This was a great day. You'll find as you start painting outside, some paintings you never want to sell, you want to keep and keep them as memories. It's your journal of places you've traveled and been. And this is just once again on the edge of Patagonia in this opening to a bay. And it was a great day. I was living in South America and took a city bus to the coast and then took a water taxi, or a water bus, I guess it is, because that's how you get around in this part of the world. And went out to this island of population maybe 14 people and just spent the day on this island painting. And this is in Chile, which beautiful thing in Chile is they paint all their fishing boats yellow. And so it's really neat design element when you go to these fishing towns. This is a bunch of boulders and kind of rock pile up in the eastern Sierras. This is back in my home. This is Monterey Bay, and painting out on the fishing pier and trying to capture the interesting light on all these. The reason to get outside is to learn how to capture light, that eventually you're not even painting things, you're just painting light and how light works on form. And the more different variables or variations in days that you can accumulate, whether it's foggy or sunny or snow or light or different parts of the world, the more I will increase my encyclopedia of knowledge and be able to build on that in my studio. If every time I go out, or if I only work from photo reference, then New Zealand is going to look like Hawaii, which is going to look like France, which is going to look like Peru. You don't want that. You want your paintings and your scenes to look different and have the feeling of where you were. This is actually a fish market, and these are all the fish that the river's right behind her. The woman standing behind the fish, and all these beautiful, full, cut-up fish are there, and there's water on the ground from the spring, and they're moving around. They're trying to figure out what I'm doing there. By the end, My sketch pad smelled like fish. And I bought some fish for dinner. And it's just, these are things I have to share is you're learning atmosphere, you're learning light, you're learning to compose. But one of the beauties, if I can get across in this class, is you're getting out. Get out in this beautiful, wonderful world, unplug ourselves for a little bit, and just take it in. You'll see you'll be working at a totally different speed than the world. The world will be moving around you, and you'll be a spectator. And even if it's only a spectator for a few hours, you learn so much, and you see so much that can help you. When you come back in your studio, I feel it. I smell the scent, I hear the sounds, and I get the full feeling that I try to then bring into my final painting. This is a good example of a quick painting. I'm out with my family and I don't have a lot of time. I have 5-10 minutes tops where they're resting on a hike in the mountains, and I can't do a full-blown painting, especially getting out my oils. So I'll pull out my gouache and I'll just take a few quick color notes. And you will see, of all my lessons, this is one of the quick color notes that I got in British Columbia. So when I got back in my studio, I can paint different scenes because I do have some color notes. This was painted in Venice. I joke that this was one of my more expensive paintings to paint because it cost me, I think, $7, because I had to sit at one of the tables in San Marcos Square. San Marcos is one place, it was on my bucket list of one of the places I've always wanted to paint, and especially at sunset, because I wanted to catch what I had seen other artists had gone there. I wanted to catch that last light on San Marcos. They're really in the square, people are walking around and moving, and there wasn't anywhere I could really set up and sit. And when I'm painting in gouache, I'm painting with the sketch pad and palette on my lap, and just however I can work it. I'm just there getting color notes. And so I sat down at one of these tables. I said, you know, what's the cheapest thing I can get? And it was sparkling water. I think it was $7. And they were wonderful. They were like, hey, don't leave, stay as long as you like. They kept coming up and looking at my painting. But it was worth it. It was so worth it to be able to get this and sit comfortably, get paint at a spot I'd always wanted to paint. And last, we're going to be getting into how to build from the very beginning. We're going to get into from the very first steps, what we need to do with drawing and then value and temperature and composition and building a painting from scratch to a finished product, working from painting on location to painting in the studio, everything to build our environment and base it all on this light and depth. And in building in this lessons about environment and light and how to accomplish that and how to accomplish building an environment full of light and full of life. Let's say you're just getting out there and you don't have enough time to really put down a lot of paint, to maybe sketch it out, or maybe you need to improve your drawing skills. Still get out. Like, take a look at this. This image, I believe, still has a sense of light. And it's because the difference between the colors I'm using for my lights and my darks and my values and my temperatures and my variety of shapes is, in the end, we're all shape makers, right? We're trying to put shapes together in an interesting manner for the viewer to appreciate and have interest in and connect with in some way. These images, if you got out and only got as much as I have right here, I would call that a success. So you would have color relationships that you probably never would have arrived at if you just painted in your studio. So get out there, even if it's just getting shapes and colors in the right value next to each other.